one of the things that's been running around in my head lately is where does the creative impulse come from? What is, I guess part of it comes from, is there such a thing really as a creative muse? But also, what is it that happens in the act of creating something new, I guess, in the world, in the and putting it into physical form? And it's not just creating a sculpture or creating a painting or something like that. I mean, the work you do is creative. The work that a lot of people do comes from the impulse to create something new, bring something new into the world.
Okay. So what the records say is divine energy is inherently creative. And so if we try thinking about this a little bit from the point of view of divine source, which is in some respects hard to do, partly because by definition, it's not something we understand everything about. But in a certain sense, it's this idea that energy can differentiate. In other words, you can have you can have multiple flows of energy. And it's the existence of multiple flows of energy that give us the idea that divine source is creative, or that there are different flows of energy, and that is creation. But it's also that the inherent nature of energy holds both potential and form. And that's another way to look at the fact that creation is a process that's a part of the energetic expression of all that is. And so if you ask the question, where does the creative impulse come from? Essentially, the creative impulse comes from source, because the source is creative impulse. So that that's why you can say the inherent nature of any flow of energy is creative, because it holds that, it's like what comes from within is the creative impulse. So the creative impulse is not like, say, a biomechanical system of some kind, right? In other words, the creative nature isn't something that has to be begun from out, you don't need something outside to begin the creation, right? So it's like the difference, I mean, for me personally, the way that I think they're explaining this, it's like the difference between like the sense of like a biomechanical wave versus a chemical wave. Biomechanical wave has to have something outside of it to begin the wave, whereas a chemical wave, its inherent nature begins the wave, begins the motion. So creative impulse is that inherent nature within to essentially move from potential to form, because that's how creation works. It goes from potential to form. And that flow from potential to form is following the inherent nature in the energy of intention, right? So it wants to become a human being. It becomes a human being. So as human beings, we're form holding potential. That means that within us, the natural motion of us is creative. And in a sense, then the primary thing that all human beings do that's creative is to take a breath, because our physical bodies are dependent on breath. So a breath is what creates us in each moment. Without breath, our creative motion goes dormant. And part of that's just because that's how Earth works. So then for some people, like the idea of a creative muse is almost like trying to always see that your creative motion is initiated by something outside of you. Or, of course, you can see that your creative muse is what's moving within you, because that's really where it is. So that the creative experience in physical form is the intention to direct the creative impulse to bring something forward from potential to form within, within the physical world, which in a certain sense, we all do every day, right? Like the way we live our day is a creative expression. We may not see it that way, but that doesn't mean that it's not, because the breath in and the breath out allows the flow of potential to become form and the form to become potential. So we basically, let's say, like for human beings, we've set human beings up to be creative in this particular way. Dogs are set up to be creative in a different way. So that means that anything that anyone does as a human being is a creative expression. That answer your question?
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.